So what's India going to look like in 2050? A global powerhouse? Or maybe a nation buckling under the weight of its own potential? Well, that story is literally being written as we speak. In this explainer, we're diving into the huge choices India is facing today, the ones that will define its next quarter century.
This quote, it just nails it. India's path to 2050 isn't some fixed destiny. No, it's being hammered out by a series of deliberate, super important decisions that are happening right now. These are the choices that are going to set the course for generations.
Okay, so to really get a grip on the choices ahead, we first need to understand how India even got here. How did it end up at this critical inflection point, trying to balance all this incredible potential with some really profound challenges? Let's take a quick look back.
What's absolutely wild here is just the scale of the transformation. Think about it. You have a brand new nation in 1947 with a GDP of around $25 billion. Then you fast forward through the Green Revolution, the absolute game changer that was the economic liberalization of '91, and then, of course, the digital explosion of this century. That whole journey has brought India to this very moment, the world's fifth largest economy, standing at a massive crossroads.
And that leads us to the first, and you could argue the most important crossroads. It's people. See, India's demographic story is this profound duality. It holds the key to incredible growth, but it also carries an immense risk. It's a classic case of dividend versus a potential disaster.
Just wrap your head around that number for a second. 65%. That is an astonishing wave of youthful energy, of ambition, of potential that most other major economies, many of them aging rapidly, can only dream about. This is the engine. And that engine? It's only getting bigger. By around 2040, India is on track to have a working-age population of over 1 billion people. This so-called demographic window is a once-in-a-civilization opportunity to just hit the accelerator on growth. But, and you knew there was a but coming,
And here it is. This is the other side of that very shiny coin. A youth unemployment rate of 23%. That's one of the highest among emerging economies. This is the danger zone, where all that potential energy, if it has no outlet, can turn into social friction and instability.
So, here's the bottom line. It's not just about creating jobs. It's about creating the right kind of jobs and arming people with the right skills. Closing this massive skills gap is probably the single most important factor that will decide whether India's youth become its greatest asset or a really profound liability.
Let's switch gears to the economy because you can see how this all connects. Here, we find another major duality. India's economy is basically a tale of two very different realities happening at the same time. One of absolutely stunning digital growth, and another of persistent, deep-seated inequality.
this slide just captures that two-speed economy perfectly. On the left, you've got this incredible engine of growth, a service sector that's a powerhouse and a startup scene that's just booming. But then, look over at the right. Income inequality is actually on the rise. That Gini coefficient number shows the gap between the rich and poor is getting wider. Female labor participation is shockingly low, and big literacy gaps are still there. The huge question for 2050 is whether these two Indias will finally start to merge or just drift even further apart.
And you see this pattern again in the digital world. India has built this amazing foundation. You've got Aadhaar and UPI, which are truly world-class pieces of infrastructure. But the slide also shows the big challenge, the last-mile gap. You've got these huge divides in internet access between rural and urban areas, and a pretty significant gender divide, too. The real test is making sure this revolution lifts everybody up, not just a select few.
All right, our final crossroads is the planet itself. As India grows, its environmental choices are going to have consequences for the entire world. Will it lead the global green transition, or will its development path be defined by a massive carbon footprint?
This slide really says it all, doesn't it? On one side, you have the ambition, a massive, massive push for renewables, aiming for 500 gigawatts by 2030. But on the other side, you've got the reality. Coal still powers almost 70% of the country's electricity. This is the central tension, the core tug-of-war in India's climate story.
And nowhere do you feel this tension more than in India's cities. They are absolute engines of opportunity, but as this slide shows, they're also epicenters of strain. Just look at the air quality statistics. Some of the world's most polluted cities are in India. Figuring out how to manage this massive urban boom sustainably, that's one of the biggest challenges of the next few decades.
But the environmental challenge goes even deeper, down to the most basic resources we have: water and food. With Himalayan glaciers retreating and groundwater levels dropping, securing this lifeline for over 1 billion people is going to require a fundamental shift in how the country thinks about resilience.
So we've laid out these monumental choices India is facing. People, economy, planet. It sounds pretty daunting, right? But the good news is that the country's own 75-year history offers a kind of roadmap. There are some hard-won lessons that can help guide the way to 2050.
The first lesson is crystal clear. It all comes back to people. Investing in education, in health, in skills, that's completely non-negotiable. And at the same time, nurturing India's incredible diversity and using it as a strength through social cohesion is absolutely fundamental for stability and progress.
Second, the economy can't just keep going on two separate tracks. Growth that leaves people behind is just not sustainable. The lesson here is that economic goals have to be balanced with social inclusion and taking care of the environment. They all have to move forward together.
And finally, let's be real, the path ahead is uncertain. The key is to embrace the kind of technological innovation that has already served India so well, but also to build agility and flexibility into its institutions and policies. The ability to adapt is going to be just as important as the ability to plan.
So, we end right back where we started. A demographic dividend or a disaster. An economy of shared prosperity or deepening divides. A climate leader or a laggard. The future of India isn't some forecast you just predict. It's a reality that's being created by the choices made today. The only question is, which path will it choose?